$425 million. That's what Adidas sold TaylorMade for in 2017. They'd paid $1.4 billion to acquire it 20 years earlier. That's not a bad investment. That's a catastrophic loss. They didn't just sell golf. They fled from it. The announcement landed without warning. Adidas sells TaylorMade, Adams Golf, and Ashworth to private equity firm KPS Capital Partners. The price made headlines everywhere. $425 million. Half paid in cash, the rest in secured notes and contingent payments. When a buyer structures a deal like that, they're hedging hard. They're not confident what they bought is actually worth the number on paper. TaylorMade wasn't some struggling basement operation trying to survive. This was the #1 driver brand in golf. Dustin Johnson played TaylorMade, Jason Day. Sergio Garcia had just won the Masters wearing TaylorMade everything. The day before the sale announcement, Rory McIlroy signed a long-term equipment deal. The roster was absurd. The brand had credibility, market share, the best players in the world. 5 years earlier, TaylorMade generated $1.7 billion in revenue. By the time Adidas sold it, $500 million, 70% collapse in 5 years. The golf division was hemorrhaging $75 to $100 million annually. Every single year, Adidas watched TaylorMade bleed cash, while their core business, shoes and apparel, printed money. Kasper Rorsted, Adidas CEO, didn't dance around it. Within our long-term strategy, our focus is clearly on our core competencies in footwear and apparel. Golf is a distraction we can't afford anymore. That's what he meant. That's what Adidas did. The collapse of TaylorMade happened alongside something nobody wanted to admit. The entire golf equipment industry was dying. Nike announced they were stopping golf equipment production entirely. This was August 2016. No more clubs, no balls. Just gone. Nike Golf had Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, and marketing budgets that could fund small countries. They quit anyway. When Nike exits a market, that's not a warning. That's the market writing its own death certificate. The Tiger Woods era created unsustainable growth that everyone mistook for normal business. Between the mid-80s and 2005, over 4,000 golf courses opened across the United States. Developers were building courses faster than Starbucks opened coffee shops. Supply exploded because demand looked infinite, and Tiger made golf look cool. Peak participation hit in 2006. Nearly 30 million Americans played golf that year. Then Tiger's game fell apart. Injuries piled up. Scandals destroyed his image. He stopped winning majors. Golf lost its transcendent star. And millions of casual fans who only watched because of him just left. They didn't switch to other players. They stopped watching golf entirely. The Great Recession hit 2 years later and crushed discretionary spending across every category. Golf equipment sits at the very top of the things you absolutely don't need list. Nobody requires a new driver to survive, especially not when they're worried about making mortgage payments and keeping their job. Participation dropped hard and fast. By 2016, only 26 million Americans were playing. 4 million people just stopped showing up to courses. Over 1,200 courses closed permanently. Supply and demand were completely inverted. Equipment sales collapsed across the industry at every manufacturer. Retailers started discounting heavily, just to move inventory sitting in warehouses. TaylorMade, Callaway, Titleist, everyone was cutting prices and destroying their own margins. The used club market exploded online with platforms like eBay and specialized golf sites. Why pay $1,500 for new irons when last year's model costs $600 and performs almost identically? Technology improvements weren't dramatic enough to justify annual upgrades anymore. Golfers figured this out. TaylorMade made their situation worse with aggressive release cycles that cannibalized their own sales. New drivers every single year. Sometimes multiple models launched within 12 months. The M1 and M2, then M3 and M4, R11, R11s, R15, RBZ, SLDR. Golfers couldn't keep track of what was supposed to be better than what. Worse, they realized the upgrades were mostly marketing hype. Ads promised 20 yards more distance with new technology. Reality delivered maybe 5 yards, maybe 3, sometimes nothing. Mark King, TaylorMade's CEO during the boom years, built the entire company strategy on constant product launches. Release new equipment every year. Market it aggressively with huge budgets. Make last year's clubs feel obsolete even though they still work perfectly fine. The strategy worked brilliantly while golf was growing and new players were entering the market. When the market contracted and those new players stopped coming, it destroyed value spectacularly. Retailers got absolutely crushed by the product cycle speed. Every time TaylorMade dropped new drivers, stores had to discount previous generations just to clear shelf space for new inventory. Margins on golf equipment were already razor thin in normal conditions. Constant discounting made them non-existent or negative. Golfsmith, a major retailer, filed for bankruptcy in 2016 and sold to Dick's Sporting Goods for scraps. The equipment retail model was breaking down completely. At their absolute peak, TaylorMade dominated the driver market with 52.4% market share. That number is unsustainable in any competitive market. Nobody holds 50% share long-term without competitors clawing back territory. Brand fatigue sets in eventually. People get tired of seeing the same logo everywhere. TaylorMade's own executives knew this dominance was temporary, even while it was happening. They tried buying their way to permanence instead of innovation. TaylorMade acquired Adams Golf for its technology and patents. Adams had excellent engineering, particularly in hybrids that performed better than anyone else's. TaylorMade wanted the intellectual property to maintain their competitive edge and eliminate a rival. They paid for Adams, shut down operations completely, moved everything to California, and killed the brand. Smart for patent acquisition and eliminating competition. Brutal for Adams employees and loyal customers who loved the brand. Buying Adams didn't stop the slide at all. TaylorMade's sales fell in 7 of 8 consecutive quarters, leading up to the Adidas sale announcement. The TaylorMade brand itself showed slight growth in early 2017, but Adams and Ashworth were anchors dragging the entire division underwater. Ashworth, the apparel brand Adidas bought in 2008, was losing money consistently every quarter. Adams was dead weight, generating nothing but expenses. Adidas tried fixing the mess with executive changes. They fired Mark King in 2014 and promoted Ben Sharp, who'd been running Adidas golf apparel successfully. Sharp lasted less than a year as CEO before he was gone. He wanted to restore financial discipline and brand integrity, slow down release cycles, stop chasing short-term revenue with constant product launches that destroyed long-term value, build sustainable growth instead of quarterly spikes that made presentations look good. Adidas wanted overnight turnarounds and explosive growth numbers. Sharp refused to pretend those were realistic goals in a declining market. He was out before the year ended. David Abeles took over next as CEO. He'd spent years at TaylorMade in various roles, understood the company culture deeply, and tried stabilizing operations with realistic expectations. By that point, Adidas corporate had already decided golf wasn't worth saving regardless of who ran it. Americans don't have time to play golf anymore. That's the brutal reality nobody in the industry wants to address directly. A full round takes 4 to 5 hours minimum. Most Americans get 10 vacation days annually. Taking a Friday off to play golf burns half a precious vacation day. Meanwhile, France mandates 25 paid vacation days by law. Germany gives 30. Spain requires 22. Europeans have time for 4-hour leisure activities. Americans work more hours, commute longer, and have less free time than any other developed nation. Golf doesn't fit modern American life. Younger generations weren't picking up golf in meaningful numbers, despite industry efforts. Millennials and Gen Z wanted activities they could complete in an hour or less and share on social media. CrossFit class, 45 minutes. Trail run, 30 minutes. Pickup basketball, an hour. Golf takes half a day, costs money every time, and has a steep learning curve that makes beginners look bad. It's not social media friendly unless you're already good at it. Posting about shooting 110 doesn't generate engagement or likes. Posting about your deadlift PR does. Golf carries an image problem it can't shake no matter what the industry tries. Expensive, slow, exclusive. Country clubs with dress codes and etiquette rules that make new players uncomfortable. That's intimidating for people trying to figure out if they even like the game before investing serious money. Topgolf solved this problem brilliantly by making golf social and casual instead of competitive and formal. Hit balls, drink beer, don't keep score, bring friends who've never played. Topgolf succeeded and kept growing. Traditional golf courses kept closing and losing members. Course closures created a vicious cycle nobody could break without structural changes to the game itself. Fewer courses meant less convenient access for casual players who might play occasionally. Less access meant fewer rounds played overall. Fewer rounds meant less equipment purchased by those casual players. Less equipment sales meant manufacturers struggled to maintain revenue. TaylorMade got caught in the downward spiral with everyone else and couldn't escape. The financial reality was devastating when you looked at the numbers. Adidas paid $1.4 billion for TaylorMade back in 1997 as part of acquiring Salomon. 20 years of ownership, billions in cumulative revenue generated over 2 decades. Sold for $425 million with half in contingent payments. They lost over $1 billion on the investment and took the deal gladly just to stop monthly losses from continuing. Adidas didn't even get cash for the full sale price up front. $212 million in cash immediately. The rest in notes and contingent payments tied to future performance targets. If KPS hits certain financial benchmarks, Adidas might see additional money later. Might. That deal structure shows exactly how desperate Adidas was to exit golf completely. Adidas kept the Adidas golf brand for footwear and apparel only. That business was profitable because shoes and clothing have better margins than hard goods, like clubs and balls. Golfers need new shoes every season, as old ones wear out. They don't need new drivers annually, just because a company releases them. Adidas could sell golf shoes alongside running shoes and basketball shoes using existing supply chains and manufacturing capacity. No specialized factories required. No separate distribution networks. Just add golf styles to current production runs and sell through existing retail partnerships. Selling TaylorMade solved another corporate headache Adidas didn't talk about publicly: athlete conflicts. When Adidas owned TaylorMade, Adidas-sponsored athletes had to use TaylorMade clubs exclusively. Nike athletes couldn't sign with TaylorMade because it meant working with rival Adidas corporate. When Nike stopped making clubs, Tiger Woods became available to sign equipment deals. TaylorMade signed him before the KPS sale closed. If Adidas still owned TaylorMade during Tiger's incredible 2019 comeback and Masters win, they couldn't have capitalized fully on the moment. Tiger couldn't wear Adidas shoes while Nike paid him for apparel. The ownership structure created conflicts that limited marketing opportunities at exactly the wrong moments. KPS taking over gave TaylorMade complete freedom to sign whoever they wanted. No corporate parent dictating athlete relationships based on apparel conflicts. David Abella said it directly in interviews after the sale. When we were part of the Adidas group, our athletes were tailor-made Adidas athletes. Now we have the freedom and independence to work with the best athletes in the world. Jason Day wore Adidas apparel and used TaylorMade clubs under the old structure. The moment Adidas sold TaylorMade, Day immediately switched apparel to Nike, while keeping TaylorMade equipment. That flexibility didn't exist under corporate ownership. The sale timeline revealed growing desperation at Adidas headquarters. They announced in spring 2016 they were actively seeking buyers for the golf division. They wanted $500 million. Nobody offered it. Months dragged on with no serious bidders. The price dropped quietly. By early 2017, reports confirmed Adidas golf brands were losing $75 to $100 million annually with no turnaround in sight. Callaway couldn't afford to buy TaylorMade even at a steep discount. Under Armour had zero interest in entering equipment manufacturing. No major sports brands wanted golf exposure. KPS Capital Partners specializes in buying struggling companies, fixing operations, and flipping them for profit. They saw TaylorMade buried under Adidas bureaucracy and corporate overhead, losing money because of mismanagement rather than fundamental brand problems. David Shapiro, KPS co-managing partner, told an industry publication that due diligence required a strong stomach given market conditions. TaylorMade was bleeding. The golf market was declining everywhere, and recovery timing was completely uncertain. KPS gambled anyway. $425 million. They immediately shut down Adams Golf permanently and cut costs aggressively across the organization, streamlined operations, eliminated redundancies, focused entirely on TaylorMade, and let Ashworth operate as a separate entity with minimal resources. They bet that independent TaylorMade, free from Adidas corporate overhead and quarterly earnings pressure, could be profitable even in a shrinking market. The bet paid off bigger than anyone expected. KPS hired Morgan Stanley to explore selling TaylorMade. Estimated valuation, $2 billion. KPS bought it for $425 million, fixed operations in under 5 years, and potentially quintupled their investment. Adidas walked away from that entire upside because they couldn't wait. Centroid Investment Partners bought TaylorMade from KPS. Terms weren't disclosed publicly, but Centroid became the new majority owner. TaylorMade kept operating independently under new ownership, kept signing elite players, kept releasing new equipment on slower cycles. The brand not only survived the industry collapse, but thrived afterward. Adidas wanted nothing to do with that success story. Golf eventually recovered in ways nobody predicted. COVID hit in 2020. And suddenly, golf became the perfect socially distanced activity when everything else was locked down. Courses couldn't keep up with demand from new and returning players. That year saw 502 million rounds played across the US, up 14% from 2019. Equipment sales spiked across the industry as new players bought clubs. Titleist, Callaway, TaylorMade all had their best years since before the recession. New golfers flooded into the game from demographics that previously ignored it. By 2022, 25.6 million Americans were playing golf, the highest participation in over a decade. Adidas missed the entire recovery because they sold 3 years too early. If they'd held on through COVID uncertainty, TaylorMade might have been worth $1 billion again under their ownership. Instead, KPS and then Centroid captured all that value, while Adidas watched from the sidelines, having walked away completely. But Adidas doesn't regret the decision at all. Their total revenue in 2017 exceeded $20 billion annually. Golf represented 5% of that, declining every quarter and burning cash consistently. Adidas refocused on core businesses where they could compete directly with Nike and win: footwear, apparel, running, soccer, basketball. Markets with real growth potential and healthy margins instead of declining participation. Kasper Rorsted pushed Adidas to simplify operations, reduce complexity, and focus exclusively on businesses that offered high returns. The strategy worked exactly as planned. Adidas stock recovered and grew. The company's market position strengthened against Nike. Nobody at Adidas headquarters in Germany sits around wishing they'd kept a money-losing golf division that didn't fit their core strategy. They made the right call for their business, even if the timing looks terrible in hindsight. Adidas bought TaylorMade during golf's golden era, when Tiger Mania made everything seem infinite. They built TaylorMade into the #1 driver brand through aggressive marketing and constant product releases that worked perfectly in a growing market. When that market collapsed, those same strategies destroyed value instead of creating it. Adidas didn't have the patience or belief to wait years for a recovery that might never materialize. Golf equipment is a brutal business with characteristics that make profitability nearly impossible. Slow product cycles, high research costs, complete dependence on a declining sport, razor-thin margins even in good times. Nike figured it out first and quit. Adidas followed right behind. Only the golf-focused companies stayed committed because they had no choice. Titleist, Callaway, Ping. Golf was their entire business. They had to make it work or die trying. For Adidas, golf was always just an experiment in diversification. When the experiment failed, they sold it and moved on.